What is going on, everybody? On here, and sorry about the last couple of days. It's been busy. Trying to get some year-end stuff done at work, trying to get some year-end stuff done in the warehouse, get everything shipped out, cleaned up, organized. Obviously, we're gonna have to do an inventory here relatively shortly before Christmas, ideally. So I want to talk about the Pokemon market, and it is healing. And for those of you who haven't paid attention, it looks like we may be in for a soft landing now. Obviously, the pricing of products has no longer gone straight up as we continue to get more and more product into the market. And as I've been saying, probably since May of 2025, the volume of printing continues to increase. And as such, we're not seeing what we saw with Destin Rivals. Now, I think we have to be a little picky with what we buy and what we don't buy. Now we've gone from the every set in the world goes straight up to you have good sets, you have less good sets. So your better sets are going to perform a little bit better than your less good sets. But then, you always have the specter of what happened with Surging Sparks. Is once you get to 250, it got reprinted 3 or 4 different times. And it's pretty much at the same place it was back in November, December of 2024, or I'm sorry, 2024. So almost a year ago. But I want to just kind of bring everybody back to earth because it looks like the TCG life cycle per set by set. And when I say that, I effectively mean when the set's in pre-release, the pricing's through the roof. It's way too high. It comes out, it releases, every store in the world dumps the product because there's free money to be made. The product is artificially depressed in price. And then as the excess supply churns through the market, the price starts to recover and everything continues to move up until you get to about the 1 year mark. And then the odds of getting massive reprints begins to lessen fairly substantially. Now, obviously, Sword and Shield COVID was its own little animal. There were some sets that were reprinted at the very tail end pretty heavily. In my opinion, that's probably a little bit of an anomaly versus what we would see in ordinary course brought about by supply chain challenges, COVID, lockdowns, a significant amount of demand coming into the market. And then all of a sudden that demand just fell off a cliff because, the government unlocked the economy and the outside world. But as we start to see this, I just want everybody to just be cognizant of what a normal, healthy market looks like. And look, quite honestly, I think things are moving in the right direction from the standpoint of, Mega One came out, spiked up, and it started to slow down a little bit. And obviously part of that is really the fact that a lot of the FOMO has started to slow down the market. But also, they moved on to Phantasmal Flames. Now they're going to move on to Ascent Heroes, and then they're going to move on to Mega 3, which I totally forgot what the set is called, even though I know exactly what it's called, because in the OP solicitation, something order, maybe? I don't know. I'll look it up. So I'm going to work backwards here. And I know a lot of folks said that they were surprised that 151 mini tins came out. And you have the 151 mini tins, you have the Great Tusk EX box from Paldean Fates from, I think it was a Walmart exclusive. And there's a lot of folks that were kind of surprised by that, which I think is a little shocking to me. Because in my mind, basically what that was, Mega Evolution's Perfect Order is the third set. Basically what that was, in my opinion again, is they had extra packs sitting there. They know the sets are about to rotate out. And there's a lot of people on YouTube that talk about 2 years. 2 years isn't a real number. That 2 year number that people are quoting is wrong. It's 100% wrong. Generally speaking, sets rotate out of print when they rotate out of standard play. Or whatever you want to call it. I call it standard play, is what it is. Which means come April of 2026, SV1 through SV 4.5 will no longer be legal in standard Pokemon play. So they will no longer be targets for reprints. It also becomes practically or impractical to reprint. But 151, the fact that it's over 2 years old doesn't mean fuck all. So those folks saying that, they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. 151 will start to rotate out of print in April of 2026. Now, what that does not mean is there won't be more coming from distribution. It doesn't mean there won't be more coming to big box stores, because Pokemon's going to have packs somewhere, which again, I think they had packaging with tins. I think they had packs, and they decided just to bundle it up and ship it out. So there was some additional 151 on the market. And quite honestly, that's what you're going to do when you're coming to the end of the print run. There's going to be English packs or English booster bundles, ETBs, poster collections, binder collections all over the world in different warehouses. And each country has its own little mini Pokemon economy. You have cross-border tariffs. And when I say that, I'm talking more EU, where you have your VAT tax if you cross borders. So there's some challenges there. So a lot of times, a lot of that product ends up coming back to the United States, returned home to the United States, and then it ends up getting pushed out. I mean, you guys have seen some of the crazy stuff that's shown up on Pokemon Center, with some Fusion Strike packs, some random sleeved Evolving Skies. We had a couple sleeve packs of Paldean Fates show up somewhere that solicited the Paldean Fate, or I'm sorry, Paldea Evolved reprint, which it's all bullshit, because the product is printed and it's not like at the snap of a finger it all dissolves and gets pushed out to the market. That's not the way it works. A lot of the stuff's warehoused. A lot of the stuff it just takes time to move. And think of your packs themselves. That's really your raw material if you're the Pokemon company. And then you have your secondary raw material, which is your packaging. So you're buying massive amounts and millions and millions of dollars of tins that are just sitting there ready for effectively packing, right? So you're packing the packs in the outer packaging and you're shipping them out. The same with some of your specialty packaging. I mean, the tins are the biggest one. And I think you guys have all seen how, different eras of the same tins have different packs in, because at that point in time, Pokemon Company had different packs to put into there. You've seen the EX boxes, the exact same friggin' EX box over a period of time can have a different mix of packs in, and that is why. So as we go into rotation, we're going to work backwards. So Silver Tempest, this set rotated out in April of 2025, and it sold out on the Pokemon Center website right around here in December. Now, this is an absolute anomaly. I would not expect any of these sets to be up 126% after they rotate out. But quite honestly, I mean, it was $180 to $400. I mean, that is a massive return. And while in no scenario do I expect SV1 through SV1.5 to have this level of increase, there is almost always, see this increase right here? So this is rotation out, and this is a step up. Generally speaking, you're going to see a 25 to 40% increase when that happens, because now there is a new level of confidence of folks who are looking at buying the product. Because one thing that we can all agree on is every Pokemon set in history has gone up in price over a period of time. So it's just a matter of what you folks want to do. What I want to do is we want to pick and choose our entry point when it's more intelligent or ideal, at least given the overall scenario and where we think we're at. And then, obviously pick and choose which sets and what products to sink dollars into. So this is what we've seen. And this graph is very typical of a set that rotates out, while the magnitude of this graph is not. So let's move to 151. Now, this is the past year. So this is after the 1 year mark. And I believe it came out in September of 2023, I think. So 23, it might have been 22. Hold on. Brain fart. No, it was definitely 23, because this is 3.5 and Silver Tempest I'm sorry, Silver Tempest, not Silver Tempest. Temporal, no, Temporal was a May set. Yeah, Temporal was the February set. So this would have been, I think, yeah, this would have been September of 2023. So even though the set's not 2 years old, this is really the ramp in the second year. And what we see a lot of times with these specialty sets is the first year they're just reprinted high hell. The second set, it starts to back off a little bit because there's other sets that need to be reprinted. Now, this has been reprinted multiple times this year, and we can see this is just the booster bundle price has been fairly static. And then you get here to the end of the summer, and things start to move up. And you have a little bit of relief here. But these packs are selling at $15 each. So you're $90 of intrinsic value on the loose packs. This is a suppressed price. And quite honestly, I would be shocked if these booster bundles aren't $125, $135 when it comes to April of 2026. And again, this is just the life cycle of sets come out, they get to within a year of rotating out, and then the year after they rotate out, things tend to move in a positive manner on the upside. So what we saw in Silver Tempest, this is what we reasonably can expect from a graphical shape, again, not magnitude, of what a set's going to do once it rotates out. This is what, generally speaking, we've seen recently of sets running up to that rotation date. And then these are sets that, this is the first year. So the first year of Surging Sparks is all over the place because, obviously it started at 100, 110 in pre-release. It was about right around 160 at release, came up to 213. Here you have one reprint, other reprint. Here you ran up, here you got another reprint, and then you get all kinds of ETBs. So the first year chart is completely unpredictable because we don't know what's going to get reprinted and when it's going to get reprinted. And Surging Sparks is a very, very unique set because it got hot right when the Pokemon Company was going dormant with their print runs and no longer ramping them up. And obviously this was the catalyst, along with the sets that came after it, to start to, obviously, Twilight Masquerade as well with Greninja, to start to increase print runs as well. So what we will see here as we get into Q2, Q3 of 2026 is we will start to see things moving up. And that's just the way the life cycle works. Now, I want to go to Journey, and this is your stereotypical graph of a release. So it comes out in pre-release and it's through the roof. It comes all the way down here, bottoms out, because this is where the maximum amount of supply is hammering the demand on the market, and the demand is never going to equal the supply at release. It's just not going to happen unless you look at what's happening with Riftbound. That's effectively what happened with Riftbound, and that's why the boxes are $300, $325 right now for the first in Origins. But as they continue to reprint into the market, a lot of that demand is going to be satiated, and it is going to push down over time. Now, we've had a dramatic increase here, and then it's a little bit of softness here at year end, and sets are generally soft into the holidays. But either way, this is showing down 15%. 15% from this pre-release price is pretty damn good. You look at the last 30 days, last 6 months, it's up 13%. This is a very, very healthy graph. Now, moving to Destined, this is a little bit different. So you had the high pre-release, you had the sell-off into all of the supply spikes. Now, this is, I believe this is the Mayhem sale. So this was 10%. I believe 10%. I don't know if there was a sale in Destined, but this is, actually your 10+% credit back. And then we have not seen a meaningful reprint of booster boxes. I have not seen any booster boxes with the reprint sticker on. I've not seen ETBs. I have seen a lot of Bill and Battles. A lot of sleeved cases just came recently, but nothing major. So this has not received a significant reprint, which is why we're seeing what we're seeing here. Once we get a reprint, and again, there's only 300, not a whole lot of boxes have been selling, not a whole lot of liquidity because the price is too high. And this set doesn't rotate out until 2028. So there's a lot of time on this set now. Look, it's an absolute banger. This is probably going to go down as the best set of the era. But there's no way in hell I would buy this anywhere around $400. So this is a little bit of an anomaly because we haven't gotten a reprint, and it is a very, very young set. Now, moving on to Black Bolt, specialty set, but this is what we should see. This is normal and this is healthy. Now, not necessarily sitting around the 85, 90 price. In a perfect world, this should be sitting right around 60 as things move, and that is the perfect equilibrium. We very rarely, if ever, have that because the market's either too bearish or too bullish, so it's almost impossible to straddle that line. But here you see your pre-release price through the roof, coming off, massive expectations of Destined and then Prismatic, and Journey was a little bit on the weaker side, but still, the boxes really never touched a one handle. They were 200 the whole way. So now we're seeing this here, and you see the supply starting to churn, 748, 472 month. So these sets actually remind me a lot of Paldean Fates, where as we get into the back half of 2026 into early 2027, where you can start to see the end of the line, as opposed to now it's just that we're nowhere close. This would be interesting, but right now it doesn't make any sense to own it because there's so much timeline and there's so much unknown time. There's just, unless you want to buy it and open it, it doesn't make any sense to do anything with it right now. Plus, it's not like you can even accumulate a meaningful position because there was nothing at distribution, and there really, quite honestly, hasn't been any reprint of this. Now we have this new box set coming, I think, in March, which is interesting. But that's probably the Pokemon Company's way of putting a little bit of product into the market without crashing the price, which is what they've done. So moving on to the two most recent sets, and this is where there's a lot of folks panicking. But ultimately, this is just normal. That's just normal price behavior. That really is. So, you started here, you went all the way down. Oh, by the way, moving to Destined, right around here is where I said the boxes probably are worth around 350 just based on the value of the cards in the set. Some people shit on it, but look, the price kind of speaks for itself. Now, back to Mega. Here we had a big spike up, and this was the first set that was waived. So nobody knew how to handle the initial release of the product, and then we had the secondary release of the product here. And if we go on the 3-month, 6-month here, you release, you spike up, and then things really start to slow down. And look, the sell-through is still really, there's 1 month of inventory listed currently, but once you get to that 250 plus price point, it gets a little expensive. And again, I'm anticipating a fairly substantial reprint of at least Phantasmal, most likely Mega 1, and also Destined coming the end of Q1. Don't want to say I got an email from myself since that one's taken, but I do have it on good authority that it is in the works. And that does not come from anybody that you might think. So moving on to Phantasmal, same thing here. Look, a very, very healthy amount of sell-through. By the way, 1 year on, let's look at Mega real quick. So 8,500 boxes, 6,200 for Phantasmal. So the sell-through on this has been really, really strong. There's just been more product come out. The set itself is a little bit on the weaker side. And, we're going to have, this is new product coming to the market from Wave 2. And we're going to see this bottom out the same way we did Journey. We'll go back here. It's going to sit here probably for a longer period of time. And it's just going to churn and churn and churn. Might hit 175, might hit 150, 160. And then it's slowly going to start to recover. Now, if they hammer this one with a massive reprint, like I think they're going to, we could see 150, 160 on these boxes relatively quickly, especially if it goes through distribution where stores, believe it or not, LGSs right now are so cash poor. It's actually financially insulting that stores, after having the best year in potentially ever for TCGs, they're still struggling to pay their bills, which blows my mind. But Anyway, this is a long-winded way of saying that nothing that we're seeing here is out of the ordinary. This is all very, very normal. Now, with Destined and with Surging, these were the anomalies. Journey starting where it was, these were the anomalies. Now, these two sets shouldn't have started in the 300s or the high 200s. These sets probably should have started somewhere around $225, sold down right around MSRP, plus or minus a couple bucks at release date, and then churn there for months. And then as the product starts to dry up 6, 9, 12 months after the fact, then the box price starts to move up again. So this is perfectly healthy. Now it's going to be interesting to see as we get closer to normalcy here, as we get reprints into the market and we get a massive amount of sets coming in the future. And there's a lot of sets coming, or there's a lot of product coming. It's going to be interesting to see when the scalping part of this is gone, meaning it's no longer profitable. Now, look, there's always going to be folks that are looking for product at MSRP when it's around MSRP because they can get it, kind of at will as they want to. Rip and shippers are probably still going to buy from those places. But generally speaking, I think, and again, this is just a number I pulled out of my ass, there's probably 2/3 of the demand on these big box stores is just artificial, and it's going to go away. Now, again, it doesn't have any impact on the booster boxes. It's going to be some of the other products like booster bundles, things like that, that are going to get hit a little bit. But again, then we're going to get sleeve booster cases again through distribution. We're going to get 3-pack blisters again through distribution. So it's just important to keep things into a perspective here, where a lot of folks are saying, well, the sky is falling and this is tanking. This is normal behavior that is not being propped up by a shortage of supply and maniacal demand. The demand is healthy, the supply is healthy, and this is what we see in the normal life cycle. There is nothing wrong with what we're seeing here. So anyway, guys, hopefully this was an educational, informative, kind of brings you guys back to level set on what the Pokemon market looks like. So that's all we have. Have a great Saturday night. Like the video, subscribe, join the Discord, and we'll talk tomorrow.